Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. FPL Consult here, and today we're going to take a look at my Game Week 29 team selection video. So the bench boost is active, as you guys can see on the left hand side of the screen. I planned for this bench boost when I wildcarded in Game Week 26 already. So we're going to go through how the team looks like at this point in time. Something to note as well is that I do have one free transfer left, right? I actually went into Game Week 29 with 2 free transfers, but I think I'm very likely to bring Luke Shaw in, who's currently in the starting 11, as you guys can see on the screen right now, and I brought him in place of Alexander Zinchenko, right? So I think that was a pretty straightforward move, but for my second transfer, I am still unsure of how I would use it and whether I would even use it in the first place, right? So as you guys can see later on, I will explain how I intend to use this transfer, if I am to use it, right? Where are the routes that I can go, what are the players I can bring in, or why I'm also considering rolling this free transfer. So hopefully you guys do enjoy this video, and if you do, please give it a like and also subscribe as well if you are new around here. We're trying to hit 5,000 subscribers by the end of the season. There is still a while to go, so it is possible. If you guys just help me out and smash that button, I'd be really appreciative of that. Right, so here we go. We're gonna jump straight into the team for this week, and Kepa in goal, right? Bench boost is active, so it doesn't matter whether I start Kepa or Raya, both of them would be playing. As for my defenders, I have Estupinian, Trippier, Luke Shaw, as I just brought in for Alexander Zinchenko, Botman, and then on the bench, Rico Henry. Now, I have one more free transfer left to go. So I could actually replace Botman, who is yellow flagged, but I do think like he will be back in time for the double Game Week 29 games, especially since he was pictured in training already. So I am fancying Botman that will get 90 minutes in both the Manchester United game as well as the West Ham game. But there is a chance that I can actually remove Botman, because the plan for Botman in my wildcard for Game Week 26 was that he doubles now in 29, and there was a potential that he would double in 31, where the Newcastle and Brighton game was projected to move into Game Week 21. But now that that is unlikely to happen, I can actually remove Botman and go for someone like Zuma, right, who I think is good for this week. He doubles in 29 and he doubles in 34 as well. But something about Zuma, right, is that I probably wouldn't use, or Botman for that matter, is that this particular player, I probably wouldn't use him all the way until later on in the season, and that's why maybe keeping Botman would make sense, because after Game Week 29, I'm not going to bench boost anymore. I can just leave Botman on the bench and play him in Game Week 35 or 36 when Newcastle and Brighton are projected to double there instead for a mini blank game week, right? So that's kind of one of the reasons why I think I may stick with Botman and not go for Zuma instead. Now there's Rico Henry on the bench. I could also replace Rico Henry with Ben Chilwell, but I think at this point in time, looking at the fixture congestion for Chelsea, I do think that Chilwell could be rested in some games. I don't really want to take the chance, and I am aware that a lot of people have gone for Chilwell because he is the second most attacking defender post World Cup after Kieran Trippier, right? So that is putting up really good numbers. But one of the reasons why I would rather just stick with Rico Henry is that if I go for Ben Chilwell, right, in place of Rico Henry, or even Botman for that matter, I would not be able to afford Bruno Fernandes, who I think I will want later on in the season if I don't already bring him in this week. Right, we'll touch on Bruno Fernandes later on in the midfielders, but for now, I think going for Ben Chilwell ahead of Rico Henry or Botman just would not make sense for my team. I don't have the budget because I do want to bring Erling Haaland back in for Ivan Toney as well. So because of those reasons, I don't think I can go for Chilwell, right? So Zuma is really the only considerable one that I can go for. But as I mentioned just now, I think I'm likely to stick with Botman for now, and based on my planned transfers later on in the season, right, leading up to Game Week 34, I actually can get to a decent double Game Week 34 team, so I don't really want to waste one transfer trying to improve the bench. As it is now, I think it looks pretty alright. I have Raya, Henry, Kane, and Saka, right? So I have one free transfer. I will explain to you guys later. I think Saka to Bruno Fernandes, I will discuss that in a bit, also because that is something that's on my mind. I'm not 100% sold on that yet, right? So I will have to consider just before the deadline stream, right, whether I want to make that move or not. So now let's jump on and take a look at the midfielders. So in midfield, I have James Maddison, Marcus Rashford, Mitoma, Solly March, and then Bukayo Saka, who's last on the bench with a Leeds at home single game week fixture for Arsenal. So touching on James Maddison first, he plays Crystal Palace away and Aston Villa at home. I actually really do fancy him for this double game week 29, which is one of the reasons why I went for him in game week 26 when a lot of people were going for Martinelli or Odegaard, right? Because they had a fixture in game week 28 and also they played Bournemouth at home in game week 26. Right, so I took the risk. I went for James Maddison in game week 26, and come to game week 29 now, I am saved that dilemma or that decision whether I want to swap an Arsenal player like Odegaard or Martinelli that some of you guys find yourselves in, right, to swap them out for James Maddison. Right, so I already have him. I'm in a pretty advantageous position in that respect. Right, so I hope that Maddison can deliver. As for Marcus Rashford, he is still yellow flagged. But he is doing some individual work right now, so I do fancy that he will be back in time for the double game week 29 fixtures. Right, Newcastle away, Brentford at home. With the form he's in, I mean, I think you wouldn't expect him to blank. I think we would expect him to get some returns, which begs the question whether we should captain him as well. I think captaincy is quite a tough decision this week, so we will touch on captaincy towards the end of the video. Now, the last two midfielders in my starting 11 are Mitoma and March. Now, Mitoma and March, I think, are players I will keep from game week 29 for the rest all the way till the end of the season, basically, right? Unless I actually do find a way to swap out Solly March for McAllister, right? But I don't think that there are enough transfers for me to do that, and I don't really like to make a sideways move of Solly March to McAllister at this point in time. If it turns out that McAllister keeps starting in that number 10 role, maybe I can consider it if I do have a free transfer moving forward. But based on my plans, I think it's likely I will keep Mitoma and March all the way to the end of the season. They double in 29, double in 34. There's a potential double for them in 35 and 36, and also in 37 as well. Right, so loads of fixtures to be rescheduled for Brentford players, so I'm likely to keep both Mitoma, March, as well as Estupiñán. Right, I think these three players would follow me through to the end of the season. Right, now, Bukayo Saka, last on the bench. This is where my key headache for this week comes in, and I think same for most of you guys as well. Whether I should do Bukayo Saka to Bruno Fernandes. Now, I definitely have the funds for that, and doing Bukayo Saka to Bruno Fernandes, right, still leaves me enough funds to bring Ivan Toney, who you guys will see later on is still in my team, right, to bring Toney up to Erling Haaland, which is the plan, right? So I can actually get Bruno Fernandes in for Saka for free, which kind of makes it a little bit more of a tough decision. Now, if it was for a hit, right, if I were to take out Saka for a -4 and get Bruno Fernandes in, I think I wouldn't do it this week, right? So for those of you guys who do have to take a hit for Bruno Fernandes and sell Saka, right, I don't think I would do it. But in my position, the reason why it is so difficult for me that I haven't decided whether I want to do it or not is because I think for free, I think it could be a reasonable move to make, right? Saka plays Leeds at home, and I actually really do fancy Saka, especially since Leeds concede the most chances from Saka's flank, right? So in the form that he's in, we saw his incredible goal against Ukraine, right, in the international break. An incredible goal. He's in great form right now, right? So I actually do fancy Bukayo Saka a lot, and I don't really want to sell him. But the thing is, Bruno Fernandes does have two fixtures. He does have Newcastle away, Brentford at home. We know Bruno Fernandes is the penalty taker, the first choice penalty taker for Manchester United. So that is double the chance, right? Because there's two games, there's double the chance that he gets a penalty. And on top of that, there is a chance that he can play in that number 10 role, right? A lot of people are talking about how he may drop back into the number 8 role because Casemiro is out now, but there is a chance, right, that they can play Sabitzer and Fred, or even McTominay could come into the team because of how he performed for Scotland, where they won 2-0 against Spain, right? So if McTominay comes in and Fred comes in as well, then we could possibly see Bruno Fernandes at that number 10 role. Now, I think it is unlikely. I think we may see a couple of games just after the international break that Bruno Fernandes features in that number 8 role before Eriksen comes back and then maybe pushes Bruno Fernandes back up again. Right? But at this point in time, because it is so up in the air right now, I could just delay that move, right? Eventually, I will bring him in, right, for Saka, right? But I could delay that move to game week 30 instead, right? And I guess it is a little bit of a gamble as to where he would play and the kind of chances that he will get in those positions as well. Of course, the chances he get in the number 8 role isn't as good as that of the number 10 role. Right, but it is still a tough decision. Let me know what you guys are doing, right? Whether you are doing that move for free or whether you're doing it for a hit. Have you already confirmed your transfers? Do let me know in the comments below. So up front, there's Ollie Watkins and there's Ivan Toney, both with double game week fixtures. And then on the bench, my third forward is Harry Kane. Right, so Harry Kane, I think I'm very unlikely to sell him. I know some of you guys are selling him for Isak, because Isak doubles in game week 29, Manchester United at home, West Ham away. He's in good form as well. But some of you guys are doing that move so that you can free up funds to get Bruno Fernandes. But for my own team, right, because I already have James Maddison in that particular spot, where those of you guys who intend to upgrade Odegaard or Martinelli up to Bruno Fernandes as well, right, that's why I'm kind of using the funds from Harry Kane to Isak to do that move. Since I already have Maddison, the only route or the only logical route for me to get Bruno Fernandes is to upgrade Saka, right? So as I mentioned, I can do that move for free, and also still afford Toney up to Haaland. So because of that, I think it just makes sense for me to keep Harry Kane for now. I also do fancy Harry Kane against Everton away, and on top of that, that Bournemouth at home fixture, right, in game week 31 is where I really want Harry Kane, and then maybe I will move him on later to free up funds so that I can get the ideal 3 premiums that I think will take me through to the rest of the season, right? And that is Bruno Fernandes, Erling Haaland, and Mohamed Salah. Now, I think I will want these 3 players moving forward, and the only way to get Salah into the team is to sell Harry Kane. So those are moves for later on, especially when Liverpool double in 34, right? So for now, Harry Kane stays in the team. There's Ollie Watkins and Toney as well in my starting 11. Both of them double. I think in isolation, when we take a look at their fixtures, they aren't really great fixtures because they're all away from home, right? Both of them have fixtures away from home. Chelsea away, Leicester away for Watkins, Brighton away, and Manchester United away for Toney, right? So in isolation, quite difficult fixtures. Maybe the Leicester fixture for Watkins is pretty alright, but in a double game week, I think double the chances of them getting a return, right? And on top of that, they are both on penalties as well, right? So I will take my chances there, and I know most of us are actually having these players because Ivan Toney was brought forward from game week 27 where Brentford doubled there, and Ollie Watkins also had a good fixture in game week 28 as well, and that's why we have him in our team, right? So I will be keeping these players. I think there's no reason for me to sell them in a double game week. I think there are other areas where I will need to use my free transfer, right? So I'll hope that they return. And that one free transfer, as I mentioned just now, right, could come anywhere in the defense to the midfield. As I mentioned, Botman or Henry could go to Zuma, Saka could go to Bruno Fernandes. But for now, I think if I were to roll the free transfer that I still have, right, so I've already used one, right, which is to do Zinchenko out for Luke Shaw, right. So if I am to roll that one free transfer this week, the extra free transfer, then this is likely how I am to line up in game week 29, right? So I have a total of 13 doublers, 11 in my starting 11 and 2 on the bench, right? So that brings me to 13 doublers and then Harry Kane and Bukayo Saka, right? So in terms of the bench boost, I could actually have used it in game week 27. There are a couple of FPL managers who went early and bench boosted in game week 27, but based on my team, if I had bench boosted in game week 27, because I went for Zinchenko and not Gabriel, my score for game week 27 on the bench wasn't actually that high. It was only 18 points. So now in game week 29, for me to outscore that and kind of make it pay off a little bit more, I just need Raya, Henry, Kane, and Saka to score more than 18 points in total, which I think could happen. I think I fancy that happening, especially since Kane and Saka are already great players that we generally would have in our starting 11, and you actually back them to return against these opponents as well. But simply because it's a double game week for most teams, that's why they can't even fit into the starting 11, right? Hence the bench boost as well. Right, so here we go. This is the team, and let's now talk a little bit about captaincy. So before we jump into captaincy, I've currently have it on Marcus Rashford and a vice captain on Mitoma now. But I do want to talk a little bit about captaincy in general for the rest of the season. And moving forward, there actually is a chance that we can actually go different. We can go against Erling Haaland simply because of how the fixtures line up, right? And basically what I'm trying to say is that there is a lot of chance to make up rank at this point in time. I'm currently at 241k, but I think captaincy is where I really want to put in more effort into deciding a good captain, right? Because that is where we can go different, right? Already the template for most teams is really strong, right? So captaincy is really where the rank gains can be made, and I think I really want to try and pick out a good captain, right? Of course, I won't go different and should not choose Erling Haaland for the sake of it, only if I do think like that player would do really well. But for the rest of the season, I think I just want to make a mental note, right, that going against Erling Haaland in game weeks that make sense essentially, right, will help me to gain rank and actually push into where I want to get, which is the top 100k, right? So that is my general thoughts on captaincy moving forward into the season. For this particular game week, I am very unlikely to captain a forward, right? So Harry Kane, single gaming fixture. Watkins and Tony, as I mentioned, I don't really like their fixtures, all away games for them, right? So defenders as well, I'm very unlikely to captain a defender. So for my team, it will probably come from the midfield, right? Simply because extra points for a goal, extra points for a clean sheet as well, and on top of that, they simply have better fixtures. My midfielders simply have better fixtures than my forwards, right? So in terms of captaincy in the midfield, I know some people are going for James Maddison. There's a very differential pick, right? I definitely wouldn't go for Saka in a single game week fixture there. I just prefer captaining a double game week player. Now, Maddison, as I mentioned, it feels like a little bit more of a punt for me, and I think James Maddison could return, right? But if I am to put my money on who will definitely return this week, I think Marcus Rashford is at this point where I'm gonna go. But Mitoma as well is really is really up there in terms of expected returns as well, right? As for predicted points, as I did a video yesterday, Marcus Rashford is actually on 11.9 predicted points. Mitoma is at 11.1 predicted points, right? Touching a little bit on Solly March as well, I think Mitoma versus March, I'm likely to captain Mitoma ahead of March. So simply, it just comes down to whether I want to captain Rashford or Mitoma. I think I've kind of ruled out James Maddison a little bit just because I think that is slightly too differential for me, right? I think I want to go with a little bit more prolific scorer. I think James Maddison just hasn't been scoring as much, but he does look very creative, and also most of Leicester's goals come through James Maddison, right? But simply because of form, I think Rashford and Mitoma is where I'm going to go, so it's simply who I captain out of the two. For now, it's Marcus Rashford because I kind of fancy him starting both games in Game Week 29, and that's where I think the captaincy armband will go, and the vice captain on Mitoma. It could change on the deadline stream, we will see. If I bring in Bruno Fernandes for Bukayo Saka, right, then Bruno Fernandes is on penalties. Also another reason why it could shift to Bruno Fernandes, I'm not sure at this point in time, but for now it's on Marcus Rashford. And in general, I would like to put the armband on a penalty taker, but for this week, it just seems as if just based on kind of a little bit of gut feel as well, right? I don't think I will be putting it on a penalty taker, right? For now, it's on Marcus Rashford, who isn't even the first choice penalty taker for Manchester United, but I just do fancy his chances for returns, right? And then, once again, Mitoma, vice-captain. So, it is likely that this is how I am to line up, right, for Game Week 29. Stay tuned for the deadline stream 3 hours before the deadline to see whether I use my free transfer. I'm going to spend the next few days deciding whether I want to make an extra transfer, right? Because as it stands now, the team looks really good already, right? But if I want to do Saka to Bruno Fernandes, I will spend the next few days thinking about it, and then I will see you guys in the deadline stream on deadline day, which is Saturday. I will see you guys bright and early in the morning and decide whether I want to do that move, right? So hopefully you guys do enjoy this video, and if you did, please give it a like and also subscribe as well if you are new around here. We're trying to hit 5,000 subscribers, so it'd be really great if you guys could just help me out just a second or two to hit that button down below and subscribe to the channel. Right, so before you guys go as well, do drop a comment below and let me know what you guys are doing with your teams. Have you confirmed your transfers already? Are you doing Saka to Bruno Fernandes? Are you bringing in James Maddison? Are you captaining James Maddison? Let me know all what you guys are doing down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in more Game Week 29 content very soon. Bye-bye.